Presidential candidate who was not invited to Friday's debate, independent candidate Ralph Nader. The longtime consumer advocate has been a vocal critic of the Wall Street bailout. Ralph Nader, welcome to Democracy Now! First, let's start off with John McCain announcing that he is going to suspend his campaign and wants the debate canceled.
I think Senator McCain is showboating. I mean, what's going on in Washington and Congress now as the Bush administration is trying to pull the Constitution out by its roots and demand that Congress give it a blank check without any criteria, without any accountability for $700 billion bailout of Wall Street, is not dependent on whether John McCain returns to Washington other than to vote. I think he's turning his back on over 50 million American voters who expect him to show up in Ole Miss with Barack Obama and who have made arrangements to do so. He talks a lot about honor and commitment. I think he ought to change his mind and get down to Ole Miss.
Ralph, the Democrats are claiming that they've been able to get some key concessions from the administration on its original plan. They say now they're going to cap CEO pay for those who participate in this bailout, and that they're going to get some kind of government participation or investment in these firms so that if they make profits later on, or these securities make profits later on, the government will be able to participate. But your sense, are these real substantive changes, or is this basically cosmetics on a plan that shouldn't be in place in the first place?
Well, so far it's wish fulfillment. If you watch what Barney Frank, the chairman of the House Banking Committee, said yesterday, nothing has really been decided. And also, it's not clear at all why a bailout is needed. That's part of the stampede and the panic that Bush and Paulson and Bernanke are pushing Congress toward. You know, it's eerily reminiscent when you listen to Bush yesterday of how he stampeded the Congress and the country into the criminal war invasion of Iraq in 2003. I mean, look at all his statements. This could do this. This would do that. Farms failing. Small business. Ta-da, ta-da. The first question we have to ask as citizens is, why is there a need for a bailout? The only conceivable purpose of Treasury intervention, said Roger Lowenstein in the New Republic recently, quote, is to buoy the market using taxpayer funds by paying higher than market prices. After all, if the government merely intended to match the market, what would be the point, end quote. In other words, if these mortgage-backed securities are distressed, well, they're going to fetch a lower price. There's a huge amount of money on the sidelines in Wall Street. Everybody admits that. So as a hedge fund manager basically said, look, if the price comes down lower than what the government is trying to keep elevated, we'll buy this paper. Warren Buffett put $5 billion into Goldman Sachs this week. There's a lot of money to go around. It's quite interesting how the Bush regime is creating its own panic. When the government keeps saying chicken little, the market is going to react in a very nervous manner. It's a reversal of what the government usually does, which is to counsel stability and patience, etc. So the first question Congress should ask in detailed hearings, which aren't occurring, is simply, why is there need for a bailout? Second is, if there is a need for a bailout, why $700 billion? And third, if there is a need for a bailout, what kind of bailout? Taxpayer equity, so taxpayer can recover if these companies make a profit, they can recover a surplus, perhaps the way they did on the taxpayer bailout in 1979 with Chrysler, where Jimmy Carter demanded that Chrysler issue stock warrants to the Treasury, and Chrysler turned around and the Treasury sold the warrants for $400 million profit. I don't think the Democrats show any nerve that they are going to do anything but cave here. And the statements by Nancy Pelosi are not reassuring, which is, well, it's the Republicans' bill, you know, let them take responsibility for it. That doesn't work. She's the Speaker of the House. The Democrats have got to say, slow down. We're not going to be stampeded into this bill by Friday or Saturday. We're going to have very, very thorough hearings. Otherwise, it's another collapse at constitutional levels of the Congress before King George IV.
We're talking to independent presidential candidate Ralph Nader. We'll come back to this discussion. We'll also be joined by Arun Gupta, who is the editor of the Independent.